September 1979. A request arrives at a small classified unit inside Fort Meade, Maryland. The request comes from the National Security Council, the highest level of the United States intelligence apparatus. Somewhere near the Arctic Circle, inside the Soviet Union, there is a building. It is the largest building under a single roof in the world. Every intelligence agency in the country, the CIA, the NSA, the DIA, has been tasked with determining what is happening inside. Satellite imagery shows the exterior. Signals intelligence has picked up fragments, but the interior remains a black box. The NSC has exhausted every conventional intelligence method, and so the request lands on the desk of a unit that officially exists only in classified documents. Inside a leaky wooden barracks at Fort Meade, staffed by fewer than 20 people operating on a budget that would barely cover a single piece of military hardware. They are asking a man named Joe McMoneagle to close his eyes, enter a trance state, and describe what is happening inside that building from 4,000 miles away. And he does. McMoneagle describes drifting down into the building. He reports an overwhelming sense that he is seeing a submarine, a massive one, twin hulls, a design unlike anything in the American naval inventory. He sketches it. He provides dimensions. He describes forward slanted missile tubes. He estimates a launch date, approximately 4 months from now, in January of 1980. The intelligence community confirmed every detail. The vessel was the first of the Soviet Typhoon-class submarines, the largest submarines ever constructed in human history. McMoneagle had described its whole configuration, its approximate size, and its launch window before any conventional intelligence source had identified what was being built inside that facility. And the United States government did the only rational thing it could do in response. It classified everything, and it kept funding the program for another 16 years. This is the story of Project Stargate, and the implications of what they found are so enormous that the government would rather you believe it was all nonsense than confront what it actually means about the nature of human consciousness. In 1970, 2 American journalists named Sheila Ostrander and Lynn Schrader published a book called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. The book documented in disturbing detail the Soviet Union's extensive research into extrasensory perception, psychokinesis, and the military applications of human consciousness. The book landed on desks at the CIA, the DIA, and the Pentagon like a grenade, because the implication was clear. If the Soviets were developing psychic capabilities for intelligence and warfare, and the United States was doing nothing, then America had a gap, and in the Cold War, gaps got people killed. In 1972, the Defense Intelligence Agency authorized funding for a research program at the Stanford Research Institute in Menlo Park, California. The program was run by 2 physicists, Dr. Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ. Their mandate was straightforward: determine whether human beings can perceive information about distant targets using only their minds, and if so, develop protocols to make this capability reliable and repeatable. They called it remote viewing. The term was coined by a man named Ingo Swann, a painter, a self-described psychic, and the person who became the architect of the entire methodology. Swann proposed that clairvoyance was messy and uncontrolled, but that the right protocols, the right structure, the right sequence of mental steps, anyone could be trained to access distant information through consciousness alone. Puthoff and Targ began testing And what happened inside that lab at Stanford would generate classified documents for the next 23 years. The early experiments were crude by later standards. A sender would travel to a randomly selected location within the San Francisco Bay Area, a park, a bridge, a marina, a building, and a viewer would remain in a sealed room at SRI and attempt to describe the location. Independent judges would then compare the viewer's description against the actual sites and rate the accuracy. The results were immediately and disturbingly positive. Viewers described specific architectural features, landscape elements, ambient sounds, and emotional impressions that matched the target locations with a consistency that far exceeded chance. Puthoff and Targ published their findings in the prestigious journal Nature in 1974, one of the only times in history that a major scientific publication ran a paper on psychic phenomena. The paper generated enormous controversy, but the data stood, and the intelligence community took notice. If this worked for parks and bridges in the Bay Area, it could work for military installations in the Soviet Union. The program expanded rapidly. Within a few years, it had moved from academic curiosity to a national intelligence tool. The program went through multiple names across its lifetime: Scanate, Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Sunstreak, before being consolidated under the name Stargate in 1991. But the core was always the same: a small group of individuals selected for their apparent psychic abilities, trained in increasingly refined protocols, and tasked with providing intelligence that conventional methods had failed to obtain. 3 names stand above the rest, and each one tells a different story about what human consciousness is capable of. Ingo Swann was the theoretical mind behind the entire program. He developed coordinate remote viewing, CRV, a structured set of protocols that theoretically allowed anyone with training to produce accurate data about a target they had never seen, had never been told about, and that was separate from them by any distance. The protocol worked like this. A viewer was given geographic coordinates, latitude and longitude, and nothing else. No context, no hints, no information about what the target was or why anyone cared about it. The viewer would then enter a focused mental state and begin reporting impressions, shapes, colors, textures, sounds, temperatures, emotional tones. These impressions were recorded, transcribed, and later compared against the actual target. Swann's most famous session predated the formal government program entirely. In 1973, he was asked to remote view the planet Jupiter before the NASA Pioneer flyby. He reported something that confused everyone. He described a ring around the planet. Jupiter was known to have no rings. Saturn had rings. It appeared that Swann had confused his targets, except he had confused nothing. When Pioneer 10 completed its flyby, it confirmed the existence of a faint ring system around Jupiter, a discovery that stunned the astronomical community. Swann had described a feature of a planet 365 million miles away that the entire scientific establishment believed was impossible. Let the scale of that register. 365 million miles across the vacuum of space, with zero sensory input, zero instrumentation, zero physical mechanism to explain how the information traveled. Ingo Swann perceived a planetary feature that would take NASA another several years to officially photograph and catalog. He perceived it sitting in a room in California with his eyes closed. Swann's contribution to the program went far beyond individual viewing sessions. He developed the coordinate remote viewing protocol into a structured, teachable system with defined stages. Stage 1 captured the basic gestalt, a sense of whether the target was land, water, structure, or open space. Stage 2 captured sensory data, colors, textures, temperatures, sounds. Stage 3 captured dimensional data, heights, depths, shapes. Each subsequent stage added resolution. The viewer moved from blur to focus in disciplined increments like a camera slowly adjusting its lens. The genius of Swann's protocol was that it bypassed the analytical mind entirely. The analytical mind wants to guess, wants to label, wants to declare. It is a building, or it is an ocean. Swann understood that the moment the analytical mind engages, the signal degrades, so he designed a protocol that kept the viewer in pure perception, reporting impressions without interpreting them, for as long as possible before allowing any analytical processing. This is remarkably similar to what every meditation teacher in history has taught. The mind that interprets labels and judges is the obstacle. The mind that receives, perceives, and allows is the channel. Swann built a military intelligence protocol around a principle that mystics have understood for millennia. If Ingo Swann was the architect, Pat Price was the prodigy. Price was a former police officer from Burbank, California, who walked into the Stanford Research Institute and immediately demonstrated abilities that shocked even the researchers running the program. Where other viewers produced impressions, shapes, feelings, vague sense data, Price produced blueprints. In 1974, Price was given coordinates for a location inside the Soviet Union, the nuclear testing area at Semipalatinsk. He had been told nothing about the target. He was given only the latitude and longitude. Price described an airfield. He described a large gantry and crane at one end. He provided specific technical details about underground facilities, construction materials, and the layout of buildings. His descriptions were so precise, so technically detailed, that the analysts within the intelligence community initially suspected a security breach. They believed someone had leaked classified satellite imagery to the SRI team. There had been no leak. Price was sitting in a room in California, describing a top-secret Soviet nuclear installation from the inside out, using only his consciousness. And here's a detail that adds another layer to the mystery. During one session, Price described water tanks at a specific location. Analysts found no water tanks in current satellite imagery and dismissed this element of his viewing as inaccurate. 21 years later, in 1995, a historical photograph surfaced of that exact location taken in 1913, showing two water tanks precisely where Price had described them. Price had apparently perceived the location as it existed in 1913, 61 years before his session. His consciousness had accessed the past. Price died suddenly in 1975 under circumstances that remain debated to this day. He was in Las Vegas, reportedly on his way to take up a contract position with the CIA to do remote viewing work full-time. He died of a heart attack in his hotel room. Some within the program believed the death was suspicious, given the sensitivity of the intelligence he was producing and the discomfort his accuracy caused within certain agencies. Others accept the official account. What is beyond dispute is that Price's abilities were so extraordinary that even the skeptics within the intelligence community struggled to dismiss what he produced. Joseph McMoneagle was the first operational remote viewer recruited into the program. Designated Viewer 001, he was a career Army intelligence officer who had served in Vietnam, survived a helicopter accident, and had been experiencing spontaneous psychic episodes for years before the military decided to put those abilities to use. McMoneagle grew up in poverty in Miami. His father had no formal education. Both parents were alcoholics. He was frequently beaten as a child, and he later said that his first psychic inklings came from the need to anticipate his mother's rages, a survival mechanism that forced him to develop a sensitivity to emotional states of others before those states became dangerous. He joined the Army at 18 to escape the chaos of his family. During the deployment in Germany in 1970, McMoneagle became severely ill while eating a meal and had a near-death experience. He described leaving his body, watching the medical team work on him from above, traveling through a tunnel toward a brilliant white light that radiated joy, comfort, and love. An inner voice told him it was time to go back. When he returned to his body, he found that he could perceive the thoughts of the people around him. He began reading philosophy and reflecting on the nature of consciousness. In 1978, Puthoff and Targ tested McMoneagle at Stanford Research Institute in 6 initial tests. He scored 5 first-place matches, meaning an independent judge could correctly identify the target from a pool of 5 photographs based solely on McMoneagle's descriptions and one second-place match. He was immediately recruited into the program. McMoneagle's track record within the program was staggering. He conducted over 2,000 operational remote viewing missions during his military career. Researchers reported that he could correctly identify a target just under 50% of the time. When presented with 5 possible options, 2.5 times better than chance. Beyond the Typhoon submarine, McMoneagle was involved in the search for Brigadier General James Dozier, who had been kidnapped by the Italian Red Brigades in 1981. He helped locate a downed Soviet Tu-95 bomber that had crashed somewhere in Africa. The remote viewer placed the wreckage within several miles of its actual location. He provided intelligence on Libyan chemical weapons operations. He was tasked against targets in North Korea, Iraq, and Iran. When McMoneagle retired from the Army in 1984, he was awarded the Legion of Merit. The citation stated that he had provided critical intelligence reported at the highest echelons of our military and government, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff, DIA, NSA, CIA, DEA, and the Secret Service, producing crucial and vital intelligence unavailable from any other source. Let me read that citation again. Critical intelligence reported at the highest echelons of our military government, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff, DIA, NSA, CIA, DEA. The United States military awarded one of its most prestigious honors to a man for looking at things with his mind. The Legion of Merit citation is a declassified document. It exists. It is archived at Rice University in Houston, Texas, as part of the Stargate Project collection. Anyone can read it. And the question that nobody in the intelligence community was willing to answer publicly is the one that changes everything. If this works, if consciousness can perceive across any distance and any time period, then what exactly is consciousness? Here's where we leave the spy thriller behind and enter the territory that matters for your life. The United States government spent $20 million and 23 years investigating whether human consciousness can perceive information across space and time without using any known sensory channel. The program employed physicists, intelligence officers, trained military personnel, and civilian psychics. It generated thousands of pages of declassified documents, and it produced results that were, in the careful words of statistician Jessica Utz, in the final evaluation, statistically significant. The official conclusion was that the program had produced intriguing results, but had failed to provide consistently reliable intelligence. The CIA terminated it in 1995, and the public narrative became, it was an interesting experiment, but it failed to produce reliable enough results to be useful. It was an interesting experiment, but it failed to produce reliable enough results to be useful. But that narrative hides something enormous, because the question was never whether remote viewing produced perfect intelligence. The real question is whether consciousness can leave the body at all, whether awareness can perceive anything beyond the boundaries of the skull, whether the mind is confined to the brain, or whether the brain is a receiver tuned to a consciousness that exists everywhere, at every point in space and time simultaneously. And on that question, the Stargate data is devastating. Ingo Swann described the rings of Jupiter before science confirmed they existed. Pat Price described a Soviet nuclear installation from a room in California with a level of detail that triggered a security investigation. He described water tanks that had been demolished 6 decades earlier. McMoneagle sketched the largest submarine ever built 4 months before satellite imagery confirmed it. He received the Legion of Merit for providing intelligence that was, in the words of the citation, unavailable from any other source. These are facts. They are documented, they are declassified, they are sitting in the archives at Rice University and the National Security Archive, and they point to a single, inescapable conclusion. The boundary between your consciousness and physical reality is already breached. It has always been breached The Stargate program was merely documenting a capacity that already existed in every human being who walked through the door of that leaky barracks at Fort Meade. Think about what this means for your understanding of yourself. Your consciousness is, according to 23 years of classified government research, capable of leaving your body, traveling across any distance, perceiving events in any time period, past or future, and returning with accurate, verifiable information. Your mind is doing something that physics has no model for. Your awareness is operating outside the known laws of the universe. And the government documented it, classified it, used it operationally, and then told you it was pseudoscience. They told you it was pseudoscience because the alternative was admitting that human consciousness is the most powerful intelligence-gathering instrument in existence. More powerful than signals intelligence, more powerful than any technology ever developed. And that instrument lives inside every single human being on the planet. It is beyond control, beyond regulation, beyond taxation. It belongs to you. It is permanent and irrevocable. That is the real reason the program was shut down and dismissed. The technology is free. It is inherent. It belongs to everyone. And there is no institution on earth that benefits from you knowing that. And you have this same capacity. You have always had it. Here's what I want you to understand. I want you to let this rearrange something fundamental in the way you see yourself. You already remote view every single night. When you dream, your consciousness generates environments, people, conversations, sensory experiences, entire worlds that have no physical basis. You see rooms you have never visited. You interact with people who may be thousands of miles away. You experience events that are still in the future, and sometimes those events later occur in waking life exactly as you dreamed them. Every culture in human history has documented this. Prophetic dreams, visitation dreams, dreams of distant events that later proved accurate. The dreaming mind is doing something that the Stargate program spent 2 decades trying to replicate in a waking state. It is perceiving across space and time without any physical mechanism to explain how. McMoneagle himself said that his remote viewing experience bore a direct resemblance to the perceptions he had during his near-death experience. The same quality of awareness, the same sense of expanded perception, the same feeling of consciousness operating independently of the physical body. He described remote viewing as accessing a mode of perception that already exists within every human, but most people experience only in sleep, in trance, or on the threshold of death. The mystics have always known this. Neville Goddard taught that the state akin to sleep, that hypnagogic borderland between waking and sleeping, is the most powerful, creative state a human being can enter. It is the state where imagination becomes indistinguishable from reality. It is the state where consciousness slips free of its ordinary constraints and can travel, perceive, and create without limitation. The Stargate program discovered the same thing using military protocols and classified budgets. They documented under controlled conditions that human consciousness can reach across any distance, perceive events in the past and in the future, and bring back accurate, verifiable information. And the method they used, a relaxed, focused mental state combined with structured intention, is functionally identical to what every meditation teacher, every mystic, every consciousness explorer has been teaching for thousands of years. The only difference is that when the government does it, they call it intelligence. When you do it, they call it imagination. But it is the same faculty. It is the same capacity, and the declassified documents prove it works. Consider what happens when you worry about the future. You sit in a room and your consciousness travels forward in time to a scene that is yet to occur. You see it, you feel it, your body responds to it. Your heart rate increases, your cortisol rises, your muscles tense. You're having a full physiological response to an event that exists only in your consciousness. Your body treats the imagined future as though it were present reality. That is remote viewing. You are perceiving across time. Your body is responding to the perception as though it were physical. The only problem is that you are aiming this extraordinary capacity at the wrong target. You are viewing a future you fear instead of a future you desire. And your body, which treats a viewed future identically to an experienced one, begins building the physiology of the feared outcome. The Stargate program teaches us that this capacity can be directed. It can be aimed, it can be structured, and when it is aimed at a desired future with the same clarity and intention that McMoneagle brought to that Soviet shipyard, the results can be extraordinary. So here's what I want to do with you. I want to take the core methodology of the Stargate program, the same structured approach to expanded perception that McMoneagle used, to sketch a submarine from 4,000 miles away, and I want to point it in a different direction. Instead of viewing a military target, that you're going to view your own future. Because if consciousness can perceive across time, if Pat Price could see water tanks that existed in 1913, if McMoneagle could sketch a submarine that had yet to be launched, then your consciousness can perceive the version of your life that already exists in a future timeline. The version where your goals have been achieved, the version where the thing you have been working toward has already materialized. That future is already there. It already exists as information in the field of consciousness, and you can access it the same way the Stargate viewers accessed their targets. Here's the protocol. It is simple, it is direct, and it is built on 23 years of government-funded research into the mechanics of non-local perception. First, you define the target. In the Stargate program, the target was a set of coordinates or a sealed envelope containing a photograph. Your target is a specific moment in your future, the moment where a particular goal, intention, or desire has already been fulfilled. Be precise. A specific scene, a specific location, a specific feeling. The more specific the target, the clearer the signal. Second, you enter the reception state. McMoneagle described this as a state of relaxed focus attention, alert and awake yet deeply calm. So relax as much as possible. The analytical mind steps back. The ego steps back. You become a receiver. You are tuning your consciousness to a specific frequency, the frequency of the target, and allowing impressions to arrive without filtering, judging, or interpreting them. Third, you record what comes. The Stargate viewers spoke their impressions aloud or sketched them immediately. They described shapes first, then textures, then colors, then sounds, then emotional tones. They moved from the vague to the specific in layers. You do the same. What do you see in this future moment? What is the environment? What is the quality of the light? What sounds are present? What is the emotional tone? What are you wearing? Who is with you? What has just happened? Fourth, and this is where the activation diverges from intelligence gathering and enters the territory of reality creation. You feel it. You inhabit the perception. You allow the remote viewing to become remote experiencing. You're there. You're in the scene. The impressions sharpen into full sensory reality. The sounds become audible. The temperature becomes tangible. The emotions become your emotions. You are living, breathing, existing in the future that your consciousness has just accessed. Stay there. Let the scene develop. Let the details emerge that surprise you, that arrive unbidden, that your conscious mind never placed there. In the Stargate program, the most accurate data always came when the viewer allowed information to arrive rather than forcing it. The same principle applies here. Your future is broadcasting a signal. Your job is to receive it. The scene that forms in your awareness, when you stop trying to build it and simply allow it to appear, that is the signal. That is the target. That is real. You will know when you've locked onto the signal, when the experience produces physical responses in your body. Your breathing will deepen or quicken. Your skin may flush. You may feel a wave of emotion, joy, relief, gratitude, excitement, that is disproportionate to anything happening in your current physical environment. These physical responses are your body's confirmation that it is receiving the signal. It is treating the remote perception as present reality. Your nervous system is already living in the future. This is the step the military program never took. They viewed the target and brought back the information. You're going to view the target and stay. You're going to make the future moment your dominant frequency. You're going to inhabit it so completely that your consciousness begins to treat it as present reality rather than distant perception. And when your consciousness treats a future event as present reality, the bridge between where you are and where the target exists begins to build itself. Events rearrange, opportunities appear, people show up, circumstances shift. The three-dimensional world starts reflecting the signal that you're broadcasting. The signal of someone who has already arrived at the target. This is manifestation understood through the lens of the most expensive psychic research program in human history. It is imagination validated by $20 million in government funding and a legion of merit citation sitting in an archive at Rice University. You are the viewer. You are the future. Your future is the target, and the signal is already coming through. The Stargate program ran for 23 years. It was classified at the highest levels. It employed some of the most talented intelligence officers and physicists in the country. And when it was declassified in 1995, the government told the public it was a failure. But governments fund failures for a year, maybe two. They fund failures until the budget review kills the program. They absolutely, categorically, without exception, cease funding failures before 20 years have passed. They never award the Legion of Merit for failures. They never classify failures at the highest levels of national security. They never archive thousands of pages of failures at a major research university. Something happened inside that program, something real, something documented, something that the people who experienced it, McMoneagle, Swann, Price, the physicists, the intelligence officers, the analysts who received the data, described as the most extraordinary discovery of their careers. Human consciousness is non-local. It exists everywhere. It can perceive across any distance. It can perceive across time, past, and future. It operates independently of the physical body, and it can be trained, structured, and directed with intention to access specific information from any point in the field of reality. The government discovered this when they buried it. They buried it because the implications are too vast, too destabilizing, too fundamentally threatening to every institution that operates on the assumption that consciousness is confined to the brain and that physical reality is the only reality. But the documents are declassified, the archives are open, the evidence exists, and the capacity they documented lives inside of you. The same capacity that allowed a former dancer from Miami to sketch a Soviet submarine from a wooden barracks in Maryland. The same capacity that allowed a painter to describe the rings of Jupiter before NASA confirmed they existed. The same capacity that allowed a police officer from Burbank to see a nuclear facility from the inside out, including details that had been demolished 6 decades before he was born. That capacity is your consciousness. It is unlimited. It is non-local. It is already breached. Every time you close your eyes and imagine a scene so vividly that your body responds as though it were real, every time your heart rate changes, every time your breathing shifts, your muscles relax, you are doing what McMoneagle did in that barracks. You are perceiving across the boundary between the internal and the external, between the imagined and the actual, between this moment and a distant one. The boundary was always thinner than you were told. The Stargate tapes prove it. It was never there at all. The program is declassified. The archives are open. The capacity is yours. The only question is what you choose to view. Now, before we go, I want to invite you to join the Reality Revolution community at school.com, www.skool.com/Reality Revolution, where I hold weekly group coaching sessions. We have mastermind sessions and networking sessions. You can find exclusive content where I read audiobooks and meditations that you can't find anywhere else, and an incredible soul family that you can join that's working together to help you to manifest your dreams and goals. You can find every episode of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. Be sure to check out the website. It's been updated. You can find all information about any future events. We're holding events in Maui in May. We have an event coming up in Anaheim in July, in Austin in September, in Sedona in November. I hope to see you at one of those events. I'm sending all my light, all my love to everyone. And welcome to The Reality Revolution. Now, I want you to imagine waking up and all your money problems are solved. You have large sums of money flowing to you. Your body feels electric and healed. Your relationships are deep and authentic. You are free, living the greatest life that you could ever imagine. Now, that version of your life already exists and is real. And this July in Anaheim, I'm going to take you on a journey so you can step into this life. On July 24th through the 26th at the Anaheim Hilton, for 3 days, live and in person, I'm hosting the most powerful Reality Revolution event ever. And because this is right here in Southern California, 20 minutes from my home, I'm bringing everything, my original artwork, additional equipment. I'm able to share experiences and do things I can't do in any other location. It's like a homecoming for me, and I'm able to offer everything.
I really can't put into words what I experienced, but I can say the colors were magnificent.
Oh man, I've been following Brian for almost 7 years now, and I've been meditating with him, but the experience coming in person with the group coherence and him being in person, it was just phenomenal. I mean, it's really hard to put in words exactly.
I don't have a word for it. I already said magical, but I just feel so connected and so blessed to be here. Like, there's nowhere I'd rather be. If I even slightly thought about the money that I spent, I'm not thinking about it now, because I would have spent double to be here again.
My experience with the Brian Scott retreat is like mind-blowing, right? I didn't have an expectation going in, but coming out of it, I feel so much more enlightened and connected with people, and it's just been an amazing experience.
They should come for just this experience, for opening up your consciousness, for expanding your consciousness, expanding your vessel, for the miracles that we are really here to live. We're not here to suffer. We're not here to scrounge. We're here to thrive. And this is something that will help you to connect with that part of you, that part that we are here for. And overall, open up your arms and you imagine 100 people that is on the same level with you, that is thinking the same things with you. You could come here and feel that.
3 days will change the trajectory of your life. I want to meet you. I want to help you. I want to activate you. And I want to share this experience. There's nothing like having a group of people that are resonating at the same frequency, creating this change. It's the most powerful and wonderful experience. And what is amazing is the connections that you will make with the people that come together at these events are so profound. You will come away with lifelong friendships. It goes beyond anything that I expected when I started to do these events, and I want to share this with you. So I hope to see you in Anaheim on July 24th through the 26th at the Anaheim Hilton. You can find the link in the description below. I will see you there.